Amid the possibility of extending the U.S.-Iranian negotiations in Islamabad, media outlets reported that the technical teams of both delegations exchanged written texts regarding the issues under discussion, while the Wall Street Journal, citing the office of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, stated that the delegation led by him held direct talks with Iranian officials.
Furthermore, the office of Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif stated that Pakistan is determined to continue mediation to promote the interest of regional and global peace.
The Pakistani capital, Islamabad, is hosting direct negotiations between high-level delegations from the United States and Iran as part of the mediation efforts undertaken by Pakistan to end the war. Translation of non-speech audio. No translation needed. Today, thank God, the two parties have agreed to begin negotiations. In this significant development, I thank the leadership of Iran and America for responding to the request, announcing a temporary truce, and sending their delegations to negotiate for peace. Translation of non-speech audio. No translation needed. The Pakistani mediator is keen on building trust between the American and Iranian sides, returning to diplomatic paths, ensuring the security and stability of the region, and reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Pakistan is working on gradually building mutual trust between the two parties, noting that Pakistan has had a good relationship with President Trump from the beginning, just as it has a good relationship with Iran.
The Pakistani mediation enjoys the support of the international community, which anticipates the success of this mediation to ensure lasting security and peace in the region and the security of energy routes.
Pakistan is betting on the success of the mediation it is exerting between the two sides in a way that leads to the endurance of the current truce and the return of security and stability to the region. Abd al-Rahman Hayat, News Channel, Islamabad. For more, we are joined from Washington by the lecturer in international affairs at George Washington University, Dr. Nazar Farsak. Doctor, greetings. The U.S. delegation at the negotiations is headed by Vice President J.D. Vance. How do you interpret this participation, and does it reflect the extent of Washington's seriousness in negotiating? Yes, I think it indicates that the American president wants new ideas, ideas that bridge the gap between the parties, or at least new ideas that help give momentum to the negotiations because he truly wants to get out of the impasse he is in. And the choice of Vance, I think, has several interpretations. The first interpretation, of course, is that the Iranians said their experience with Witkoff and Kushner was bad, given that military operations took place during the negotiations. But there is also an internal issue for Trump. There is great dissatisfaction among the American public with this war because the vast majority of Americans do not want this war, and J.D. Vance. Consequently, they are criticizing Trump for that. And they consider that he violated what he pledged, that is, what he promised in the elections. And Vance is famous for being, an isolationist. He believes that the United States should not get involved in all these foreign issues. So sending Vance is an internal message to the American public that President Trump remains committed to not entangling the United States in endless wars. Meaning preoccupations outside the United States. And there is another or additional interpretation. It may also be that Trump himself is dissatisfied with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Because he is the one who encouraged him to go to war and convinced him that it would be easy. He felt that Witkoff and Kushner were also working to push Netanyahu's ideas. And pushing for Israel's interest at the expense of the American interest. And Vance is not like that. So this may also be part of the selection of Vance. Yes, Doctor, in your opinion, what are the most prominent conditions that Washington has placed on the negotiation table?
Naturally, opening the Strait of Hormuz is a fundamental issue. The nuclear file is also important, but I believe there is room for flexibility from both sides. It is complex, yes, but it also contains many secondary points on which the parties could agree, and they could reach formulas involving some ambiguity. Building missiles is the hardest part, or rather, I shouldn't say the hardest. The demand will be for their range to be very limited, so that they do not threaten any neighboring countries, if not ending the program altogether. So, I think these are the basic points there. Of course, there is also the issue of American detainees, the hostages. Perhaps as a gesture of goodwill, Iran could release them in exchange for unfreezing some frozen assets or something similar, so I think these are the essential points.
Doctor, Iran is pushing for the ceasefire to include the Lebanese front, something Washington rejects. How will this axis be handled in the negotiations, in your estimation?
I think the United States, and President Trump specifically, is truly not interested in linking the two fronts. He wants an end to the war that allows him to appear victorious, and the Lebanon issue complicates these matters. He is prepared for a scenario where there is an understanding between the U.S. and Iran. But the Lebanon issue remains unresolved, and Israel would retain full freedom to act there, without American interference, so this scenario is acceptable to Trump. The extent of this card's importance to Iran, or to the Iranian regime, is unclear. We have seen in the past how they accepted the loss. I mean, of the head of Hezbollah, Nasrallah. And they did not. They did not take any real deterrent action in response or make the Israelis pay a price for that, because the priority, of course, is the survival of the regime. They thought, or presumed, that if they did not escalate in this area, they would miss the opportunity for Israel and the Americans to carry out a major operation for regime change. But, of course, it turned out that this conclusion was wrong. Yes, Washington is talking about American naval vessels passing through the Strait of Hormuz as negotiations begin. What message does this event send?
That highly intelligent people know how to change their minds. Why for them to say something like this? They say things like,
I think this is an internal message to show Americans that the United States is still the superpower that holds the initiative, and that nothing stands in the way of its will, because recent events made it appear that Iran had the initiative and the United States was retreating, or at least reacting to Iranian steps. And that makes Trump appear as a weak person. One who is acted upon rather than an actor. Yes, in your opinion, will a negotiating formula be reached during the meeting in Pakistan? I doubt they will reach a formula today. I think it will take a few days. But there might be surprises, such that both parties agree to focus only on one or two issues. Temporarily, to see if there is an ability to reach an agreement. So, if they move toward phasing the negotiations, we might find a solution, or perhaps a positive step, today.
Yes, from Washington, Dr. Nizar Farsak, lecturer in international affairs at George Washington University. Thank you very much.